CellsToSell.
Yeah! Hey everyone, welcome back to CellsToSell. My name is Heem, that's Nick. And today we don't have a special topic. We're just going to do a quick recap for all of our new subscribers.
Yeah. It's been like 7 months since we started.
Yeah.
We did our first recap in January. It's now April. So, we're...
That was episode 16, first recap.
Heem was saying that we're closer to a year than we are to starting, which I think is really cool. But, yeah, this is just kind of a recap. We're probably just going to sit here and brainstorm.
Yeah.
If you're watching this, like and subscribe. Thank you for clicking on the video. We appreciate it. Share it with your friends, family, dog, cat, fish. I don't care. Just share it. It really helps us out. Not that, we're making money from this.
Not at all.
But, the entire goal of this podcast when we started it was, and, this kind of can start, from the beginning. Our goal of this podcast at the beginning was to, bring, this new and cool science that we're learning here at Case Western Reserve University, which is, where we're master's students at. And we wanted to, share this regenerative medicine information that we're learning because we believe it's the future of medicine. We think it's crazy cool, But the goal was to, one, share about this medicine in a way that anybody could understand. So, my mother, who has no scientific background, she's a professor at a university, but she teaches education, right? My goal when I come and sit in this chair is to talk as if I'm talking to my mom in, our living room and trying to explain to her, what we're doing so everybody can understand around the world. If you speak English, I really think that if you can speak and listen to English and understand it, I think that if you watch this podcast, you can get a really cool understanding and learn a lot of cool information, right? And then the second one, and this is something that I think we've been thriving with, is to not only give PhD and grad students a chair to come and talk about their work, but we've also had some unbelievable undergrads on here and just students in general and people from the community, and giving them a voice. And you sit a PhD down and ask about their work, they could talk for hours. It's incredible. So.
And they'll talk about other things too. They just know about some really awesome stuff. So
mm-hmm.
PhDs are really great tools to have.
Yeah, it's just, it's cool because I had the misconception when I was an undergrad, if I went to medical school or if I went to grad school, my life would be over for 2 years. I'd be poor. I'd have no free time. And it's the total opposite. Okay, I'm still poor, but it's the total opposite in time. PhD is going to the lab for this. They go to class and go into lab and they're done. It's like a job. They go in at 8, they're probably done at 4 or 5, depending on, there's some studies can
work,
some studies can let you leave later, some or make you leave later. Some
if you're doing Western blots, you're there for the entire day.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
even
awful.
worry about it. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah. So, but everybody has a hobby. Everybody does what they want to do, and it's cool to hear about their work and then hear about them as a person. One of my favorite things about recaps. So if you go back and watch any of the interviews we've had with any students, PhD students, master students, anybody, the first question that he and I always ask is not what's your work or what are you doing in the lab. It's always basically who are you? Where are you from?
How'd you get
here? How did you learn about Case? How did you fall in love with the science that you're doing now? And those stories are so encapsulated. Sometimes if we have a 40-minute episode and we're talking to somebody, I think we might talk about their work for 10 minutes. The other 30 minutes is just tangential conversations about things we like, why we like them, talking about locations and traveling, Will's episode, learning that he's from what, Nevada?
Reno, Nevada.
So he's from Nevada. I've never been past Omaha, Nebraska, and if anybody's watching from Omaha, I'm sorry, but there's nothing in Omaha. I had to go out there for work. But it's interesting to see I work with a lady in the lab I work in, and she's from New Mexico. So I always have questions about her. And one day I hope to have her on before she has to leave Case. But it's just...
Yeah, I think it's been really fun so far. In the beginning, we iterated so much. First of all, we were looking at each other for our first episode. Mm-hmm. The weirdest thing, we had this mic that was always glitchy. And then we realized, okay, Case Western has all these free resources. Let's start using the free resources. We get mics from the library. We're always recording in here. I'm pretty sure the staff even knows us as the selfie studio guys. Like
they might know you. They don't know me.
Oh, dude, of course they know us because
the guy who created this place knows me and you. But like the people at the desk, I could walk up, I could fall over them in the street, and I don't think they know me.
So like one time we actually were recording in here, and the guy who was responsible for like putting in grants and stuff for funding this room, he was like, I always walk around here to see if people are using it. I always see you guys. I think it's good. I think it's really great.
Yeah.
And then we had the opportunity to do HoloLens. That's so crazy. We haven't got to do it again.
Yeah.
Maybe hopefully we get to do it again soon. We've just been, something always comes up on a Friday, like exams. We're just busy. Things always happen.
Or like people are sick.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes like something comes up on like HoloLens's end. Yeah. That's really hard to say. But like, and that's life.
Yeah.
That's life. We can't blame anybody. It just happens.
But I'm glad we have like the ability to like still put something out there,
Yeah.
No matter how, if it's a 4 or 5 minute video, it's just like whatever. I think we still have to post, get it out there because consistency's just key.
Yeah. Even in the episodes, like, if you guys noticed, like, in the Spanish episode, like, and, like, when Heem and I originally started interviewing people, it was just like this, right? Like, they just sit in the middle, we sit here and talk, and then we switched and we had 2 cameras running, and, like, now you see, like, the new angles of, like, the person we're interviewing and the 2 of us sitting back here talking. So, like, we're trying to get our production up, and in the last Spanish episode that was posted Monday, what's the date? Today's the 24th. So posted Monday the 24th, the Spanish podcast. We played with the cameras again, and I think that looks amazing.
Literally, I feel like it's just like...
It's always a work in progress, is what it is.
Every time I come in, I never expect what's going to happen, and then we always realize, like, hey, like, okay, we used to have mics, and now, honestly, we were recording with iPhones, and, like, we're just kind of, like... We started with all these requirements, and we're like, oh, we need the laptop, we need this, we need that, we need so many things going on, we need merch. Now we're just like, dude...
let's just record and get it out there.
Yeah.
Keep networking, keep building a base.
Definitely.
And, like, even if the bases are moms, dads, and families, like, I don't care. Like, it's still fun. I'm still having a good time. One of the things I will say is, like, I started looking into, like, OBS and like different like software things like for
recording,
video and editing and recording, and I haven't landed on something that I think like will work for us yet, but I'm still looking because there's always improvements we can make.
For sure.
One day, this is going to sound insane. One day, I hope we stop recording in here. And I hope we can go somewhere where we can have our own setup, like our own mics and mixers and computers that like and lights that we don't have to touch, and like a cool like background, like a black background's in, like, this is great because all focus is on us, right? Right. But, like, you look at, like, all, like, the big podcasts. So, like, when I think, like...
Joe Rogan.
You think, like, Joe Rogan.
Lex Friedman.
2 Bears, 1 Cave. I'm a comedy guy.
No,
like,
for real.
So, like, and, like, I forget, what's the one with Andrew Santino and Bobby Lee? But they have one.
Bad Friends.
Is it Bad Friends?
Bad Friends.
And then like, the Logan Paul and like the Sidemen, like the Sidemen from England, like they all have podcasts, and their sets, Impulsive. But their setups are freaking awesome.
Oh yeah.
And one day I hope that like we're big enough to where like we can get like a really cool setup. That's like entertaining and like maybe one day like a production team.
In fact, dude, honestly, sometimes I think we just need a stand, and we need those portable mics. So if we can go to a PI's office and sit in their office and just have something to just put up the phones, give them a mic, we could essentially make this podcast anywhere.
We could
travel anywhere on this planet.
We could
and get an episode out. I think that's so great. And I was gonna say something, I forget, but
what?
I forget.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I feel like it was something important.
It was kind of important.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll think of it.
Heem's graduating in, 3 weeks. So.
That's exactly what I was going to try and talk about. So, the whole point of us also continuously being consistent is that, the things we do have changed. I have an internship we haven't introduced on the channel.
Yeah, we have not talked about that yet.
You've been 6 months in a lab doing really good work. all that stuff we haven't talked about.
I've mentioned it a little bit.
We've mentioned it here and there, and we haven't done a deep dive on each other's new things. And also, like, the summer's coming up. We both have, like, new things coming up.
I have an internship coming up.
So it's just like
40 hours a week. It's like a big boy job.
Yeah.
What it is. But I'm not gonna say.
When we reach the 1 year mark, it's gonna be like people will understand how we started, where we're going, what we're doing, how we're evolving in our own lives. I think that's so cool. I think that's really
I
great.
agree. I think, yeah, I mean, what's a YouTube channel without any growth?
Yeah.
Whether that's, like, as we're growing in production, as we're growing as, like, co-hosts and, like, running a podcast. How we started a new podcast with the Spanish podcast. Where, you know, like, we can say that I'm producing it, but no, Heem and I are producing it as a team effort. I would never ever say that it's all mine or all his. Like, it's definitely a team effort.
Right.
So, yeah, I think when we hit a year, it's going to be looking a lot different. Like, depending on, like, something might just come up and you would be like, dude, I have to move to Boston. And then we go to Zoom.
Oh, God.
Right? Like, that's totally a possibility, and, like, that could totally change the landscape. But it also just opens so many new doors.
Yeah.
So, like...
And, you know, we gotta, like, re-invite all of our past guests, because as we're evolving, their stuff has evolved too.
I was trying to get... So, instead of a recap today, I was trying to get an interview with a fine gentleman we had on. He was, like, our...
He was
like our first fourth or fifth guest.
Yeah.
Like, he was like right up there, like, first people, and, like, his talk was so interesting, and he has done so many cool things in the last 7 months.
Yeah.
Since we've had him on, the last 6 months since we had him on, and
that's such a good point. We gotta.
He had class today, and we have finals coming up next week, and he had class this afternoon. So, and we have papers and everything due. So, but yes, they're gonna come back on, whether it's in the next week and a half or 2 weeks or 2 months or next semester. Like,
it's gonna happen.
They will be back on.
Because they were great guests. They had so much to talk about, and
I want to have Will back on.
Yeah,
and I want to have Yifan back on too.
Oh, Yifan.
I have way more things to ask Yifan.
Has his nature paper
got rejected? It got rejected, unfortunately, but I think that he's gonna apply to, like, a bunch of, like, other, like, bigger journals too. I think, like, Science and Cell probably.
Hey, I mean, that doesn't take away credit from who he is.
No.
One of the most incredible people.
Okay,
we gotta get back.
Here's a comment about journals. Is, like, the politics in journals are so bad.
That's true.
If you don't have specific names on your paper, or you don't know specific editors, you, like, your paper literally won't even get looked at. They will look at the names and they will just send it back to you and say no corrections, nothing, just nope, not even worth it, not even worth our time. Because like Nature, for example, is getting sent, like, thousands of papers a day probably. So, like, the way that they just sift through it, they just push it out.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Yifan works in Drew Adams, right? Adams' lab. That's a pretty...
And Dr. Amar Desai was on that paper too.
That's just messed up, man.
I agree.
These are such reputable, intelligent people that, like, I don't
it's
know.
Politics, though.
It's
politics.
Crazy. Don't you have to pay $2,000?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You have to pay.
You have to pay to get your thing published, which is crazy to me too. So
was there application fee?
Yeah, probably.
And then the rejection, dude. Oh my god, that's such a messed up thing.
Anyways, I want to have Yifan back on because he's doing a lot of other cool things that, like, necessarily aren't, like, involved with this paper that I want to talk to him about.
Yeah.
Osvaldo, the podcast, like, the Spanish podcast co-host, tri-host, co-host,
tri-host.
He's got to come back on because he has a really cool internship coming up. But he's really close. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And then, trying to think, Will would be cool to have back on.
I mean,
Will Woltang.
Victoria, Ryan was our first guest ever.
Yeah, Ryan was our first guest. Ryan needs to come back on.
I think he's finished his thesis, so it would be great to see how, like, his whole...
And we can ask a PhD student, what's it like to finish your thesis and present and defend it?
Yeah.
Like, because that's something that my mother has a PhD, but I've never asked her, like, hey, Mom, how is your thesis defense when you got your PhD? Like, that's not something you normally ask your mother.
Does it never come up at a dinner table?
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
Come on, man.
But I think it would be cool to hear Ryan's perspective on it.
Yeah.
I think it would be cool. So there's a lot of things that we can continue to do, and And while we say we want to have old guests back on, that's not meaning we're going to have every single old guest back on.
For sure.
Like, we're going to mix in some new ones. But it will be cool to, like, update with, like, the people who, like, started with us at the beginning. When we had, like, 40 subscribers.
And, you know, there's one thing I will admit, which is kind of bad on our part. Is, like, the name CellsToSell. We've done this first sell part a lot. We've done the science.
Yeah, we have struggled on, like, the business. We haven't done a lot of business,
we have to definitely
biotech side.
We have to get Cleveland entrepreneurs who are in the business. Maybe we interview Todd from Innovations or somebody, but it would be so great for, like, us to have episodes for you guys that, like, have real life examples of how this medical device for surgery, like,
yeah,
that's a,
like, Butters was really good.
Yeah,
even though it was
true.
still super science heavy, just seeing what
a medical device
was that's not a cell, that's not a CAR T cell,
mm-hmm.
right? You know, that stuff's interesting, and that kind of stuff is, you will see that before you see any, like, super common CAR T cell on the market for cancer. If you're looking out for that kind of stuff, you will see Butter's device for blood pressure.
That's amazing.
Like, you will see it. Like, it will happen. It will happen. It's crazy. Like, it's crazy cool. Yeah. Crazy cool. And how she talks about her pigs always makes me smile. But there's so much more like that we can do, and, you know, depending on how we have to transition as our lives continue to move forward and the life of this channel continues to move forward, like, it's gonna be a lot of fun. And, like, I don't plan on stopping this anytime soon. Let's say Heem and I have, like, you know, real jobs and everything. Like, who's to say we can't sit down at 7:00 on a Tuesday night, record over Zoom, and, like, I'm back home in Cincinnati and Heem has his job, or, like, Heem's, like, working remote, like, for a company in Boston but lives in Michigan.
Sure.
And, like, who's to say, like, at 7:00 at night, like, we can't just hop on a Zoom. Yeah. Keep emailing people that we know, have them send them a freaking Zoom link. Like, we're going to make money, we can pay for Zoom. Yeah. And then, you know, just interview them for a half hour, record it and upload it for you guys. And, you know, maybe then, like, Trivia Tuesdays might have to die. Right? Just, like, that'd be
not
really
a bad
hard.
thing. That's not a bad thing.
Continue, but, like, right, and continue to make evolution. So, while you guys are watching, you know, the 25 to 50 of you guys that watch, you know, our episodes every time, and if you got this far,
for an average of 2 minutes,
it's okay. It's okay. But we just want to say thank you, and you know, just understand that this is going to evolve, and I'm sure you guys want to see some evolution. We've been doing the same stuff for a while. Mm-hmm. Probably time to spice it up a little bit. I think we can get some really cool ideas brewing. You know, I just wish Heem and I had some money to put into this. We're both poor grad students, so it's really hard.
But I do want to say something, like, we've made this work
on a budget.
With free.
We have been balling on a budget.
We've made the most of, like, we take advantage of all the free resources we can. And, you know, some people are not resourceful. They think that, we need the highest production, highest this, highest that, all from the beginning. And then they don't keep up with it. Yeah. But I think the core of our purpose is, like, let's get episodes out there, and then the production will follow.
I think what's important is, like, I watch a ton of YouTube, and I listen to, like, a lot of YouTubers. Like, they'll always get the question, like, I want to be a YouTuber, what should I do? And, like, the thing that most YouTubers say the most is, like, consistency. It's consistency and, like,
evolution.
It's like you have to, like, your next video should always be better than your last video. Yeah. Right? So, like, that's why Heem and I are always, like, trying to figure out what's the best way to record audio. Is it with the phone? Is it with the microphone? Yeah. What's the best way, like, you know, working on camera angles. Oh, yeah. I have ideas that I've been, like, I want to implement, and that Heem and I have been talking about. And, like, they're really hard. Like, they'd be hard. But, like, I think that there's, you know, it would elevate this, but with the time that we're in right now, we don't necessarily have unlimited time to sit there and edit our videos and make them perfect. Yeah. You know, but we really try to get good audio, get good video. I mean, cameras on the iPhone are, like, seriously, I don't know how they're going to get beat. Like, they're crazy. Like, why would we go spend $2,000 on cameras when we have our iPhones that we use every day? Like, it's crazy. Yeah. So, as we evolve, it's just going to get better. Like, we're just going to try to keep making it better. I talked a lot this episode.
No, I think it's really great. Everything you said was super, super true. And if you're watching and you have any suggestions, or you think, every week there's someone or another that's getting some disease that changes their perspective on life. And there are people out there that are looking for like these alternative therapies that are not drugs and not you have to take pills 4 times a day for every day of your life. There are therapies people are looking for that Case Western Reserve is helping develop. And this channel, 2 years down the road, is gonna be like the connect. It's gotta be. Like it's literally I don't think anyone else is like talking in our niche. No. There are some things like the blood podcast, the stem cell podcast.
But they're like
super scientific.
They're super scientific. And that's not the point. That's not the point. It's like for the lay person who is not in a research lab or taking a really freaking hard immunology class, like you need to understand the basics and you need to understand how to connect people to the correct resources.
Yeah.
And like understanding like you should be able to like kind of figure out like, okay, this isn't working. This drug isn't working. Not mechanistically in the body-wise and not working. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking like, why isn't this drug getting approved by the FDA? It's a great drug. It showed safety in phase 1 clinical trials. In phase 2, it met its endpoints. In phase 3, like, what's up? Why haven't we seen this drug? It's been 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
And, like, you should be, like, our goal is where you're like, oh, well, there's probably a regulation issue. Or, like, there's probably, like, maybe it was in the shipping. Maybe, like, something happened as they were sending
it across
the nation.
You don't need to know the in-depth thing. But
that's the thing. But if we can give you the basis, and then, like, say, like, Heem and I know how to, like, if you know somebody in need who is, like, last leg, go to clinicaltrials.gov and just look up what's happening with that disease. And you will contact universities. It might be Case, it might be Pitt, it might be in the West Coast, it might be on the East Coast, it might be like Harvard or Yale. But there are clinical trials that are occurring in medicine that can help people. And like I think that like I know there's programs, but I think something that would be cool would be like, I don't know, like something like CellsToSell Connect. And like we're able to like have portals where like we connect people to like the right people to get help that they need. Like that's what we want to do is like give you guys the information so that you can go out into the world and like when people have like these questions of like what is a stem cell and stem cells are bad, it's like no, stem cells aren't bad. You just kind of like are looking at them the wrong way, right?
And the media does such a bad job of portraying what stem cells are.
That's kind of also like our job is like putting these in like the correct light. Like it's so important that we're like advocates for it because there are so many people who just like people in life, if they don't understand something, they just like write it off. And our job is like, okay, we absolutely cannot write off stem cells. We cannot be writing off just healthcare in general.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's so important. So remember when we said this episode is going to be 10 minutes?
Dude, this is like it's like we just kept the ball rolling.
Even if nobody watches this until now, and if you are, thank you. But even if no one watches this until now, if we can look back on this in a year, and like be like, wow, like this is what we were doing.
We're not doing anything like that anymore.
Exactly.
Like anything could happen.
But it's cool. Like we might not be doing anything like this anymore, but the messages should still be the same, and I think that's going to be the really cool part.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be the really cool part, and making new friends and meeting new people while we're at it.
Definitely,
I think that'd be really cool. So. All right, well, do you have anything else?
No.
Well, thank you guys for listening to this recap. If you made it this far,
yeah.
I don't know. I can't say thank you enough.
For sure.
Go ahead, subscribe, share, like everything. Ask questions, comment, email us.
A special shout out to Nick for being such a good co-host, And
a special shout out to Heem for being such a good... Or what are we doing?
No, I don't know, bro. I think we have to like give gratitude to each other because like showing up every week, it's a big deal. I think
Heem is probably going to be the only one that hears this, but Heem is why this podcast runs. He does all of the editing. He has now taken over all of the editing, all the writing, all the social media stuff. I just, like, show up.
Not really, though, because you do lead really good conversations. The trivia is, like, you're like you have really good screen presence. So it's like, you can't discredit that.
Yeah.
If I just did this whole thing, man, that would be so boring.
Oh, absolutely.
It'd be super boring.
Totally agree. Yeah. So, no.
Anyways.
So, all the behind-the-scenes stuff that, while I can talk really well in front of the camera, Heem does all the behind-the-scenes stuff that actually matters. I could sit here and talk in front of the camera and, like, nothing could happen.
But that matters, though. That's the whole product.
Okay.
It's, like, people looking. But anyways.
All right, well, thank you guys for watching this recap. Yeah. It's been great. Heem and I will probably come back. This is like a little time capsule.
Yeah.
We'll come back and watch it in a couple months or a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. So, well, this has been another episode of CellsToSell. My name is Nick. That's Heem, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
See ya.